Let's talk about debt, baby. Let's talk about you and me. Let's talk about all the good things and the bad things that may be. Let's talk about debt.
Hi, guys, and welcome back this week to the Life After Debt podcast. I'll tell you, I'm having so much fun this new season. It's our second season of Life After Debt, and I'm having so much fun with the guests we're having on, and this is no short of another example. I have to tell you a funny story. We actually had met briefly on a trip that we were out in Vail together, but just recently we happened to be at the same hotel at the same time, and this person reached out to me directly, and I was able to connect. And man, I'm so happy I did. It was so out of character for me, but I was so happy that I did. And I'm just here to welcome our guest, Carrie Pasch, on our show today. I'm so excited for her to share her story. And, you know, I think I'm so inspired too by your story, Carrie, because our journeys are very similar.
Yeah.
And I am so inspired. But now what you're doing for the women like us, with the platform that you all have with Equip Her, which I know we're going to touch on. So welcome to the show.
Oh, thank you. It's an honor and a privilege to be here. And I agree that meeting that day in Palm Beach was nothing short of a divine appointment.
Yeah, it really
So
was.
I'm excited for today's conversation. I was saying to myself, if today is anything like the conversation we had that day, we could talk for hours.
I know. It was so great. I mean, I can remember sitting there listening like, oh my gosh, her story.
Yes.
You know, and you did so many incredible things. I know you and your husband, he's into marketing and you work within that business. But I'd love for you to share a little bit about what you're doing now, and also the story that I'm so fascinated with is your love for Italian, and what you did with that. So if you could just share a little.
Yeah, sure. So I have co-founded the movement called Equip Her, which is designed to encourage, empower, and equip women in business and align faith with our business endeavors. And I know from personal experience being in the automotive industry for the past 15 years as an event planner, we're often programmed as business women and in general to say that faith and business, they can't align. Those two worlds should stay drastically far apart. They cannot come together. But I can also tell you from experience that the second I said yes to incorporating faith into my business endeavors, and I know that's going to look different from every single one of us, the second my husband and I did that, we started to experience some of the greatest opportunities, breakthroughs, just abundance and overflow that we could have never imagined. And so that is part of my heart behind Equip Her too, is being that source of encouragement and empowerment for women to align faith at the center of their business endeavors and meet them where they're at.
I love that. I am so inspired by that statement because I experienced it firsthand. I'll tell you, I was in business, had been for 15 years, and I'll never forget reading a book written by Lee Deming called Stay in Your Lane. And
He's great.
It was so powerful. I remember getting done with the book thinking, oh my gosh, like there is a way to do ministry and business at the same time. And it is exactly, it runs parallel together, but that is where, when it happens, that's when you see growth on both sides. And my mind was blown.
Yep. And that's true because I had that aha moment too. And for the past 15 years, I specifically have been an event planner in the automotive space. We've hosted, some of the most successful events in that space. And I was like, but God, how could I possibly incorporate some of my business skills into ministry? Like, to what I think they don't really collide.
Right.
But here I am planning an event in the Christian business world for women. And I'm really bringing together passions from both sides. And it's amazing for me to just experience it. And I look back and I say to myself, if you were to tell me this 5 years ago, I would have been like, you're nuts.
Listen, I say the same thing.
Or me planning events, it makes no sense.
Yeah. And I even noticed on the event that you were at the hotel that we were at, you opened up with the devotional that day with, I mean, it's a secular company, but you were bringing God into that business.
Exactly. That is one way in which we have started to incorporate faith into our business and a very, very secular world. We decided, because we host events that normally take place on a Sunday when most people are flying in, they are not able to attend church themselves. So we said, we'll bring church to them. And on Sunday mornings, everybody attending our conferences knows that we host a Sunday service. And it's myself or my husband or another pastor friend that gives a message, a short message before the conference kicks off. But it's so imperative that we set our mindset right. And we have faith at the center of our heart before all of our endeavors. Because for me, that's what it's about. You know, we can't cherry pick where we're going to incorporate God. You know, just saying, oh, we're going to implement faith in our home or on church, at church on Sundays. But what about Monday through Friday? That means incorporating God in your business too. And that's going to look different for everybody, but we got to start somewhere. And that is, you know, the voice that Equip Her has started to, you know, percolate into the business world and helping women find that voice on how they can align those two worlds.
It's so powerful. I mean, I can remember having conversations with people, even watching what God was doing around me with bringing people in my life. And I personally said this, so I know other women are doing the same. But I said, I don't do ministry. I'm in business. Like that was my tagline. Like, and then I kept saying it like, well, why do I feel this way? Because we've been wired to think you're either in ministry or you're in business.
It's one or the other. Right.
But truly, it's when I've seen God show up and bring people and show me firsthand that you are in both. And when you commit your ways to the Lord, He'll give you the desires of your heart. And so literally every single day walking in that with my team, with my businesses, it's been a game changer. It
is. And, you know, that looks different for everyone, like you and I have been saying. And it reminded me of a story that was shared with myself and my co-founder, Wendy Perez, recently. This woman was in the, I'm going to say, luxury retail world for a very long time, but recently switched over and is now the vice president of one of the most prestigious hotels and casinos in Las Vegas. And she found herself sitting at her first board meeting, which was predominantly made up of men, and they were going around the table sharing their core values. And she was listening to them, and some of them were saying, you know, productivity or efficiency. And while she did agree that those are critical points for the success of their company, she also found herself saying, but that's not my core value. And she was in a little bit of a little bind because she wanted to share what was on her heart, but she also maybe didn't want to be judged. But in that moment, she remembered attending Equip Her, and she said a little prayer to herself, and then she found the courage and said and shared to them her core value, which was family. And she said, and you should be happy, family is my core value, because that means I'm going to treat our teams and their families as if they were my own. And the CEO and the team there had fell in love with her and just had, I think, a total new respect and perspective of her. And I love that story so much because Equip Her, it meets you where you're at, but in the sense that it looks different for everybody. So sometimes I think we have this impression well, how am I going to share my faith in the work field? Just rip out the Bible and start, preaching to the person next to me. But it doesn't always have to look like that. It can just be that sharing that little seed of what's on your heart, or paying a compliment or a word of encouragement to the employee and the colleague next to you. Or maybe it's saying a prayer for someone that is in need of prayer. So it's just all these little ways that I think really build up, and that's how we start to see transformation and tearing down those walls that these two worlds can coexist.
Yeah. And for what you all are doing in the workforce with equipping these women, because women alone, especially in business, it's hard when you're sitting at a table, with males. And I've been there before, and you feel very inferior. And so to have a collective group that you're bringing together every single year of like-minded women who are sitting
Thank
at these
you.
round tables and pouring into them. I mean, what a gift, right? To how it's affecting all of their employees. The trickle down is just astronomical.
Yeah, and I found myself saying, because I was looking back and reflecting also in my career, and just like you said, we both have experience with male dominant, industries, but also when we work with women in competitive industries, we can be each other's worst enemies.
I know.
Women we
Vicious.
have power, oh my goodness, to gossip and tear you down and one up you.
Yeah.
And you're told to just not trust anybody,
That's right.
And I was like, that I don't like that. I want to flip that script. I want to create a community where women can come and be supported and know that they can be in a safe room with trusted, like-minded women and get compliments and network and connect with one another.
Yes.
That is game changing to me. And that was another trigger for me in wanting to develop an intense community of like-minded business women.
Yeah, and I think too, for people like yourself and others who have been very high up in the world of business, it is lonely at the top, right? And so it's just knowing that this group of women, especially a faith-based group of women, I mean, I can just imagine. I know I'm super excited to even attend. It will be your third year this year, correct?
Yeah.
So tell everybody a little bit about what that looks like and what you guys do on an annual basis.
Sure. So Equip Her Conference, as you said, happens every year. The next one is going to be April 7th and 8th out in Las Vegas. And the conference itself is hosted at my business partner's church, Church LV. And we have anywhere from about 12 to 14 speakers. Some are keynotes in style, but others, which I love, are interviews and panel discussions. Yeah. And I have found that these are the sessions that people end up loving the most because it's just like we're doing right now. The conversation is so organic and authentic and just raw and heartfelt. And that's why I also love the intimacy of the way the content is shared, because there's something for everyone, and that's one of the pieces of feedback we've received. So I love that format of it. And then another thing that we've implemented into our conference, which always is a hit, is called our networking roundtables. And this is a cool concept. What we do at the very end of the day, we have our speakers each sit separately at a table, and all of our tables in our audience are round, with chairs around them.
Right.
And everybody can take a turn at each of those tables, the attendees, and have an intimate conversation, ask questions that maybe they were too shy to raise their hand and ask during the conference session. And then every 15 minutes, we rotate. So everybody can kind of have a different opportunity to speak to the speakers that really spoke to them. Yeah. And this was just, like I said, such a hit that everybody loved it. And it just brings that level of community and intimacy to a conference that I believe not many others are doing. So I love that unique aspect to it. That's exciting. Then outside the walls of conference, we also have what we call Equip Her Forward. And that's an online community, because we found that people were coming up to us after conference saying, well, when's the next one? Right. It can't be a year. And we were like, well, it is, because this took a lot of planning. But we were like, wow, okay, so we want to continue this conversation and this encouragement. So we started Equip Her Forward. It's an online community, and we have live monthly Zoom sessions with myself and Pastor Wendy. And we have inspirational text messages and online chat groups. So it's great things to just, again, foster that community amongst each other.
Wow. That is so exciting. Like I'm super excited to dig in and hear more. And I know there's one other thing that you did, which is a big deal. I mean, I was blown away when you told me the story, but just the Italian, that had kind of just planted in your heart that you needed to learn Italian and what that turned into. I mean,
yes. So this is a crazy story. I really feel like, when you look for, like, it's so, you can't miss the way God works and just the divine appointments he brings into your life. And once you start to awaken to them, you're just, you get excited for what's going to come next.
That's right.
But about, I don't know, a couple years ago, I got this call in my heart to learn the Italian language. Now, granted, my husband and I travel to Italy a lot. We have family there. We have friends there. We were married there. So a whole bunch of things. So I just thought, okay, it makes sense. Like, we love Italy. I'll learn the language. And so I started taking private, like, Zoom lessons because of my travel schedule. And I found that I became obsessed with learning it, like perfecting it. I didn't want to just be average and get by. I wanted to know. Yeah, 200%, nothing half. And so this, into my language journey, I don't know, like 4 years or something, still just being consistent, but not really knowing the why. Have you ever had that? Like, sometimes God puts something on your heart, but you don't really know why. Yeah. Well, that was me. And so I kept pursuing it. And then one day, I get this opportunity. I met with a local pastor, and of a life church in Florida. And he said, tell me about this passion of yours for learning Italian. And I told him my story. And he was like, well, would you be interested in creating content in Italian for the YouVersion Bible app? And I was like, yes. But inside I was like, Carrie, you cannot do this. Like, you are not Italian. Like, you are not perfect in Italian. You cannot do this. Like, what are you getting yourself into? And I was like, yes, like, I'm not going to say no. Right. And so I started doing that, and my channel like grew really, really quickly on the YouVersion Bible, which I had no anticipation or expectation, but it motivated me. And then like about a year and a half later, again, through another divine appointment, it makes no sense. Like, when I say divine appointments, when you are introduced to someone where your paths should never cross, but they do, it makes no sense. That was it. And they said, would you be interested in being the global ambassador for the Bible app for Italy? And I almost dropped the phone. Like, I was like, what? But again, I said yes, because I didn't know what the job meant or anything. But I was like, yes, because this aligns with where my heart is. And it was just all of a sudden crystal clear to me how God was molding and shaping me, and he seeked a skill inside of me that I didn't even know I had, and brought it to the surface, and is now enabling me to use it to minister and to expand his kingdom in Italy in ways that just blow my mind. And so I just think so many of us, we have a calling on our heart, and we have no idea why, and we might just then suppress it because it makes no sense,
or we don't feel qualified to ever fulfill it. Like, we're not good enough, or we don't have the skill set. Like, I know I've had those things play in my head.
Exactly. Like, I said how many times I said to myself, I am not a born and raised girl in Italian. Like, I'm American. Like, I don't have the proper accent. But
right?
I'm available.
Yeah.
And if you're available and willing to give God your yes, you have no idea how he will use it. And that's exactly also the story with Equip Her, because Pastor Wendy and I said yes to a new idea to fill a gap in ministry, curated towards women in business, to host a conference just for them, because we gave that our yes. We had no idea if it would succeed and stick or not, but we said yes. And because of it, an entire movement, ministry movement, was birthed.
Yeah, and it will continue to grow, because there's such a desire to merge ministry and business as a female. I think that God's placing these, especially in the day and age we live in, that he needs voices to rise up, right? And he needs examples in lighthouses, in businesses, and even with the people that we're interacting with, consumers. In Life After Debt, all of our debt advisors, they're believers. And so it's not just about pointing people and getting them out of debt. It's about giving them hope and saying, hey, by the way, there's a church near you. I don't know if you're attending anywhere, and getting them plugged in.
And
because
coming alongside of them.
right.
It's
And
so
so
good.
it's just giving people the tools necessary, but leading them to Christ at the same time. To me, everybody, it has that possible within their organization or business. They just don't know it yet.
They don't know it. And I think that's so powerful. I love, your heart behind what you do and coming
Mhm.
alongside people in an area that is probably so maybe shameful to them to
Right.
even bring to light.
Right.
And I think for so many people in business and what we're talking about here today, women especially,
Hmm.
we need just to see that someone cares.
That's right. Without
And at the end of
judgment,
the day,
shame.
right, that speaks the loudest.
Hmm.
And so I think just like you said, incorporating your voice and your faith in just those small subtle ways
Hmm.
they have a ripple effect
Yep.
in a way greater than you could possibly imagine in somebody's life.
Right. Yeah, and our own stories. For most people, they have these stories that they look at as daunting or awful, or
Yes.
nobody, if anybody knew my story, dot, 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 right?
Right.
But that is where you can share the love of Christ. That is
Right.
where people can see when people are at their bottom with their debt or they're financially, having these calls with me. And I always say, you know what? Like God's got a story of redemption for you. It's there and you're going to be
And
able to help so many, but you've got to be able to be vulnerable and open and
right.
honest and share your story to help others. And it's the same with women in business.
A
It's
hundred
not like
percent.
we all just woke up and arrived. We have these
No.
stories that for some of us
Yes.
look really ooey and roller coaster and have bad days and good days. But
Yeah.
you know what? If we can be open and honest and share those stories, it's just going to inspire more to come into that.
Agree.
So I love what you and Wendy are doing. I think
Oh,
it's
thank
phenomenal and
you.
needed.
I'm really
And
excited to have you there.
yeah, I'm
You're going to
excited
be
to be there.
amazing.
I know
You
that,
guys better come out because Amber's taking the stage.
right. It'll be great. But one thing I would love to hear, and I love this because I'm very entrepreneurial in nature, and I think
Yes.
that when you roll out a concept or a business, and for business owners who actually watch our podcast, we all go into this like, this is exactly the way it's going to be. And so when you and Wendy rolled out Equip Her, your whole concept, which back then when you launched it versus where it's heading today, is it exactly the way you had planned it?
It's a lot more than I ever would have thought. And it's exciting.
Yes.
I think that when we have a vision for ourselves, a plan for ourselves,
Mhm.
we limit it. And we really have no idea what's behind it
Yep.
until we ask God to get behind it too.
That's right.
And I'm just so passionate about this because it's so transformative in my life.
Yes.
I mean, I
You
just
can do
can't
far
tell.
more than you could possibly think you could do, right?
I mean, if you were to tell me that I'd be
Yep.
speaking, preaching at conferences and churches in Italy in Italian, if you were to tell me that 10 years ago, I mean, you guys, come on. I failed French. Like, languages are not my forte.
Right.
So I would say you're crazy. But God's plans are so much bigger and better.
Yes.
And I just can't, if there's one word that the listeners take away today, it's yes. Say yes.
That's right.
Just say it. Don't let that fear hold you back of taking that first step, And I know in particular when starting businesses, it's scary to think how you might not get paid for a few weeks when you have expenses to cover and a roof over your head, or it's scary to think that, your business concept's not going to be taken by the investors and you're going to look, crazy up there presenting. These are scary moments, but you're never going to succeed if you stand on the ledge. And I believe that there's an overflow and abundance waiting for you when you step in and ask specifically, God, guide me in this. Show me who I need to be. Connect me with the right people. Guide my steps. But in order to really succeed, if we're going to even use that term, because I think it's so different for everybody. Exactly. You got to partner with him. You got to do your part, but also, bring God into it.
And bringing him and asking him to come in on a daily basis, right? I know, every single day it's important. Like, hey, God, like, I'm just showing up. I'm just the vessel, like you
Right.
in some way, shape, or form, right? And so
Right.
with Equip Her too, if you asked any of those women sitting in the room, they'd probably tell you the same thing. But that is truly, to me, it's more successful to share our gifts and what God
Yeah.
has done in our lives than any amount of money could ever bring. And so
Yep.
I'm just super excited to be in that room with you guys and hear all the stories and like just, I don't know,
Yeah.
just relish in it.
Really, it's really special and just
Yeah.
and powerful. And I think one really beautiful part about Pastor Wendy and I's relationship is that we are not scared to say yes, and when we did give it our yes in the beginning, like I said, we didn't know if it would work, but we did. We said we'd have to try it. And I think as we see Equip Her evolve, we are met with these points of, are we going to say yes to this new endeavor, or how can we make it better and bigger and stronger? And all these little pivot points along the route, whether you're in business or something like this, are going to require you to either, give it your yes or not. And of course, this is something, to be praying about and talking about, but it happens all the time. It's not just a one set thing.
Yep.
And so that has been something that I've really learned, is crucial when starting something new, or just wherever you're at right now in business, is kind of reevaluating that yes at where you're at.
Well, in the mindset, I know you talked a lot about that. And even for women, when I see what I see in the finance world, most of the time, women, I'd say 80% of the time, are the ones controlling the finances in the home.
I remember you saying that.
Yeah.
Yep.
And so when I think about that, I think about how unqualified most women feel. Like, I don't even know what I'm doing. I'm just paying the bills. He doesn't know it, but we're in debt and da-da-da-da. And it's like, man, if we could fill that gap, one, by teaching them, what to do, how to do it, but more importantly, get on the same page, work as a team with your husband, communicate. But it's a very ooey concept for individuals. And so in a weird kind of way, I feel like on our side, we're equipping these women with how to deal with their current financial situation, to navigate, but they have to see it and believe what's possible too. I think they limit themselves even in the world of finance, or say, I could never make more than XYZ, or I could never do what she's doing. And the truth is that God's plans are always far greater than we could possibly imagine. And if He lays something on your heart, you are living proof, as far as I'm concerned, that He'll do the rest.
He'll transform it. That's right. He will do the rest. He's just looking for your yes. Yeah.
So awesome. Well, if people want to try to get a hold of you or sign up to come out to the event that you have in April, can you share the best way to get in contact with you and the Equip Her team website?
Absolutely. So, well, first of all, we're on Instagram. It's equip.her. And then our website is equipherconference.com. You'll find everything about the conference there, about our Equip Her Forward platform. And then one thing that the listeners should know about that we launched this year at conference, and we're going to really be bringing it to light for this next conference in 2025, is our new Empower Her. And that's a foundation that we've created specifically to donate to a woman looking to step out and start her new endeavor, start her business. And we want to go alongside of her in that journey and equip her in that way. So you can also, I'm really excited for that. And just hearing the stories that will come out of that, I believe in it. And you can read more about that too on our website. It's under Empower Her.
Great. Well, we're going to add all of this under our podcast today. So for all of our listeners, you'll be able to find all of these direct links on our podcast. And hopefully we'll see you out there in April. And if not, if you need to get in contact with us before then, please reach out to reducemydebts.com. Book a clarity call, or if you'd like us to connect you with Carrie, please don't hesitate to reach out. Thank you guys so much. And thank you, Carrie, for being here. It was such a pleasure and an honor.
It was a wonderful conversation and opportunity. Thank you.
Yeah. All right. Thank you. Bye.